It's still there. All right, let's start. This is a story that we've been hearing rumors about for, I think, over a month now. This morning, it was announced officially that Bari Weiss's Free Press has been bought. Has been bought by Paramount Skydance for $150 million. $150 million. And that Bari Weiss will become basically the head of news at CBS. CBS is owned by Paramount Skydance, and she's now going to become editor-in-chief of CBS News. So this is this is huge, and this is a massive indication for, of course, for Bari Weiss and everything she has done. If you remember, Bari was a journalist. She had worked in a number of different publications, some Israeli publications, Jewish publications. She spent some time in the Wall Street Journal as an op-ed and book review editor. She left the Wall Street Journal in 2017. She went to work at the New York Times as an op-ed staff writer and editor at the New York Times. And in 2020, she resigned, she resigned from New York Times. It was a pretty famous resignation because she published a resignation letter. It made all the news. I remember covering it here on the Yaron Book Show at the time. She basically accused the New York Times of an illiberal environment. She claimed that she was subject to constant bullying by her colleagues, primarily because of her pro-Israel views and because she just wouldn't go along with kind of the woke leftist progressive agenda that had come to dominate the New York Times. And in her resignation, she called for a new era in media and the formation of new media entities. And she started up a new a newsletter, Common Sense, I think it was called, right off the bat, which gained a lot of attention. It turned out to be incredibly well written, and she attempted to kind of capture what she believed was kind of a centrist position, a common sense position, a position that was removed from the kind of dominance of the woke far left agenda of the New York Times and the mainstream media more broadly. Ultimately, she turned the newsletter into the Free Press, which meant she hired reporters, she hired staff, a bunch of columnists to write columns for her. She was joined in this endeavor by her wife, Nellie Bowles, who wrote a humorous TGIF column kind of on every Friday, and by her own sister, Susie Weiss, who was a co-founder, who was also a co-founder of the Free Press, and turned it into an alternative media company, a successful one. This had grown. She had grown this to about 175,000 paying subscribers. According to Wall Street Journal, the business generates about $20 million of annual revenue. So she got 7.5 times revenue. I mean, that's rich, it seems. 150 million seems like a lot of money for 20 million of revenue. I don't know what her bottom line is like, what her earnings are like, what her profitability, in other words, is like. It's probably a very profitable business. Reporters and columnists are not that expensive. Running a network, running an online website is not that expensive. There's no printing costs. There's no... Anyway, it seems like it's quite a profitable business. Anyway, she she did very, very well. Basically, within 5 years, she took a non-existent business and she started something that, went to 20 million in revenue. That is huge. That is huge. That is real entrepreneurship. Congratulations to Bari Weiss. I mean, this is fantastic. It's good for her. It just shows that all those people who sit there and whine and complain and bitch about mainstream media and all these other things, here's somebody who did something about it and has become a gazillionaire as a consequence. She's very, very rich now, and she has gone back into the mainstream media, now in a position of power. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to what's happening at CBS in a minute. But this is just a inspiring story of successful entrepreneurship and should be taken as such. And it also means that, there are a lot of other alternative media companies out there that probably have worth a lot more money than they expected, given these valuations, whether it's the Dispatch or, there's a bunch of others that have an independent voice and have picked up lots of subscribers. And this is kind of given some kind of valuation to a lot of those businesses. So, again, congratulations, Bari Weiss. I mean, she's done a lot over the last 5 years. I mean, she was one of the founders of University of Austin. She's still on the board at the University of Austin. She has really become a voice, a major pro-Israel voice out there. She has an interview show, a kind of a podcast that is incredibly successful. And of course, the publication itself has just become, it's just a really good publication. Now it'll be owned by Paramount, and hopefully will be left free to continue its path of success. Now, all of this is made possible ultimately by the fact that the media world in which we live is going through some big changes. That is, we're seeing a lot of money come in and start buying media assets. Paramount Skydance is a result of Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison. That's Larry Ellison, who is the CEO of Oracle, and has been, I don't know if consistently, but has been a big supporter of Donald Trump's. Larry Ellison is his son. Sorry, David Ellison is the son. David Ellison has kind of put together the financing and backed by his dad, and basically bought Paramount and is now the chief executive. Larry Ellison is not a leftist. Larry Ellison himself is somebody who you would have considered probably 20 years ago more of a libertarian, highly, significantly influenced by Ayn Rand, a big Atlas Shrugged fan, but never very active in politics or in the think tank world or in supporting really any kind of causes. Really sat on his money and on the sidelines. Hard to tell what his politics are today. Again, a supporter of Donald Trump's, but hard to tell what kind of a conservative / free market is there still free market there? I don't know. I don't know what his positioning is. But here you have David Ellison, his son, who is clearly seems to be on the right, taking over Paramount. Part of that is taking over CBS and dedicated now to restructuring CBS and shifting it away from the conventional left-wing bias of the mainstream media and hopefully making it a more objective news outlet. And I think part of Bari Weiss's mission is to bring that objectivity. That is her goal. That is a goal. That is a goal of Bari's, is to bring kind of objectivity. The goal of Weiss is very much to bring to bring a sense of reality to media, to do the opposite of what she saw the direction the New York Times she saw the New York Times had in the 20 teens. Not that the New York Times was ever anything but heavily leftist biased. I mean, Ayn Rand talked about this in the 1960s and how biased the New York Times was way back then, and she identified it as a leftist, and it's only gotten worse, right? Only gotten worse since the 1960s, and going back to the 1930s when it was running post-Stalin stories. So, New York Times has always been leftist biased. Anyway, the idea now is that Bari will come into CBS and clean house and make it more objective. In terms of Bari's own politics, it's really hard to tell. She's sympathetic to much of Trump's agenda, but she's certainly not a conservative. Obviously, she is. She's gay. She's married to another woman. They've got 2 adopted children. She has people writing for her both left and right. I have noticed over the last, I'd say, couple of years, certainly over the last year since Trump got elected, the free press becoming more and more kind of conventional right wing that is tilting more towards the Trump agenda, which I have noticed with sadness, as have many other people, I think, who supported Bari through much of her career. But I think on certain issues, obviously, she still sticks to her kind of, I think, set of beliefs, which are more, I think on economics, she's a center left, and on cultural issues or some cultural issues, she's center right. Again, but she's definitely anchored in the center. Way too, I think, positive about Trump, but she brings a whole bunch of different voices to the free press, and that is good for. This is part of a much broader shift in our media landscape, a shift to the right that we are seeing, of course, with Twitter taken over by Elon Musk as the beginning of that. One of the things that could happen here is that Ellison is talking about buying. Who are they buying? Discover, which would give them control over CNN. So you could see CNN coming under the Larry Ellison Paramount umbrella, which would shift CNN and might make Bari Weiss very influential at CNN. ABC and NBC are kind of stuck where they are. But I think what you're going to see, and the politics here are pretty straightforward. You're going to see a shift to the right, a shift towards kind of a more of a Trumpist agenda. I think the people around Trump are ambitious. Many of them have money, and they will be deploying that money in an effort to move the media landscape more to the right. Hopefully, what Bari will do at CBS is not a shift to the right as much as a shift towards objectivity. But that is yet to be seen. All right. So that is Bari, editor-in-chief of CBS now. Congratulations to Bari Weiss. That is pretty exciting for her, for her team, and I think for CBS, and going to be really, really interesting for the rest of us to watch and to see what happens next. All right.